Hi, I'm Dylan, and you're listening to the Animals at Home podcast. Welcome to another episode of the show. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am very excited to share this episode with you. Today, my guest is Joey Mullen, the king of DIY. And as I say early on in the show, Joey was on my list of guests that I made in July when I first thought of making this podcast. He was on my list of, sort of dream guests of someone that, in the future I would love to have on. And now sitting here early November, it feels very surreal that I'm currently sitting at my desk and recording an intro for the interview that I had with Joey. So as soon as he agreed, I was like, yes! But then also, oh my God, what am I gonna say? What am I gonna talk about? But all those nerves completely disappeared the moment we started having the conversation, because he's very laid back, he was very relaxed, and it just really felt like I was having a conversation with a friend. So I am very appreciative that Joey was able to take the time. Really, there was nothing in it for him besides having a good conversation, and I do think that's really what we had here. In the episode, Joey shares some fairly intimate details about the challenges of being such a popular YouTuber. One of the quotes from the show is, he says, when you're a YouTuber, you're no longer a person. And he's kind of saying it with a smile on his face, but I think what he means is once you become so popular, it's almost that your digital self takes on a life of its own and your personal self sort of takes a back seat. And I totally understand what he means, because these people that have to post videos on a weekly basis, they really get a lot of pressure from their fans, and they're very grateful for their fans. Joey always sounds like he's extremely grateful for his fans, but there is a sort of a tremendous amount of pressure that gets put on these YouTubers by people that just want to see their videos. So it was very interesting to hear the story of how he started, and then any of the rough times that he's gone through, as well as the success that he's experiencing now. It's a very thorough story. Joey's been on YouTube for over 10 years, which is a sort of an incredible amount of time considering what YouTube was like 10 years ago. And we also discuss probably what I believe to be the most important reason to get into a pet or animal hobby. Enjoy the show. All right, well, Joey, thank you very much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Hey, no problem, Dylan.
I think in July is when I decided I wanted to do this podcast, and I wrote down maybe like 10 guests, dream guests of people who I thought I would love to have on. And of course you were on that list. And I wasn't going to reach out and ask you to be on the show for more months than now, because I wanted to have some more under my belt first. But you'd released that episode a couple weeks ago, or the video on your channel, Aquarium Saved My Life. And I thought I just was compelled to have this conversation with you. So I thought, let's just do it now. And you agreed to it. So I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, no problem.
If someone is listening to this and they haven't watched that video that Joey's posted called Aquarium Saved My Life, I do recommend going to watch that first and then coming back and listening to this. But if they haven't or they can't, can you summarize that in like a minute? I know it's like a 30-minute long video, but just the cliff notes for those that might not be able to get it.
30 minutes of me trying not to cry.
That's true. That is true.
Essentially, I tell the story of how my life before YouTube and my life even before aquariums, essentially how I got into aquariums and what they've done for me. And really, just telling the truth. I mean, that was a 1 million subscriber milestone video. I could have did anything for it. I could have did, a bunch of giveaways or whatever the common YouTube thing is. But I thought, what's the most meaningful thing that I could do for my viewers, and that was to tell the most impactful story that I could surrounding aquariums. And believe it or not, so many more people share that a very, very, very similar story as to what I shared. So what truly prompted that is I've been wanting to tell that story for a few years now. Family members, my mother, lots of people pushing me, Joey, you should tell your story. You should tell your story. I was like, nobody wants to hear that. They want to watch my aquariums and fish tanks. It's not about me. But I kept getting messages on a daily basis of how my videos are helping people, how the aquarium hobby saved other people's lives, how much it means to them. Even like really sad stories, and maybe it's not sad, but it really upset me to the point where some people would say, your videos are the only positive thing I have to look forward to. And I could just imagine how dark of a time that they might have been going through and how I can relate to that. So all these years, I just wanted to scream out, you're not alone. I hear you. So I decided I would put myself in the most vulnerable position in front of my camera and share my own story.
Yeah, I mean, and it was definitely an emotional story. And I think as a viewer, like we really didn't know. We would not have been able to guess that, right? Like I think you kind of had thrown in some tidbits in the last maybe 6 months that you were going to tell this story, but I don't think most of the viewers really knew where it was going to come from. But really, your life was kind of in a dark spot, and it was saved by fish, which is kind of an unusual statement. And you know, one of the reasons I started this podcast is when you're dealing with exotic pets, especially in the reptiles, which is mostly what I have. You know, I feel like we're constantly having to justify why keeping pets is good, and because there's a lot of people that would rather us not have these types of pets. And I don't know if it's the same in the aquarium hobby, but for sure it is in reptiles. So one of the things I promote is education, and I also donate some money to charities to protect the Amazon and whatnot. But your story was kind of revealed this sort of deeper purpose in having animals or having pets. So Can you tell a little bit more about that process? Like, how is it that you went from, you know, being in that dark spot? Because when someone says aquarium fish saved my life, it's kind of how does that work? How is it that it sent you down that positive path?
Well, I mean, I'm looking behind you and I see so many little projects and intricacies and things that you've accomplished, setting up that rack, building that tank on top, creating these enclosures, all throughout that entire process. As simple and as easy as that looks to a common person, I see hours of being lost in something you're so passionate about and so excited about. You plan this out, you spend hours thinking about it, excited about it, saving money. And then the entire process, you're just lost in the moment. Nothing around you matters. That's what fish tanks did for me. It basically gave me something positive that I really enjoyed to dump idle hands and just something passion into. Of course, I was teased by friends and, you know, fish are geeky, et cetera, et cetera. I've been keeping fish for almost 17 years now. I'm 35, and that's something that I try not to talk about all the time, but I do not come from the time these days where everybody's so offended by everything.
Yep.
And so at times I try to understand why people would be upset, but at others I'm thinking, I'm doing my best to understand why you're upset, but I just can't. You're upset that I have domesticated fish is what we can call them at this point, but you have a domesticated dog, or a cat, or, you know, something along those lines, or, you know, your car has leather interior type of deal. Like, I think that people pick and choose what to be offended about. And when it comes to the aquarium hobby or pets in general, it's so easy to become defensive because these are living animals, and we are using them for at the end of the day, we can call it whatever we like, whether it's conservation, education, etc. We get into it not for that. We get into it for other reasons because it's interesting, it's entertaining, it's exciting, it's just simply it's captivating, or we just have a simple interest in love in animals. I love animals, but I don't love all animals. Like, I don't love bugs. I don't really love snakes. Although every time I visit my friend Brian down in Detroit, I come back saying I want a snake. 3 days later, I'm like, no, I don't. I was a phase. But,
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's interesting to hear other people's sides of the stories, but we do now live in a world where everybody is offended by everything, and it's okay to be that way. Regardless of who you hurt in the process, as long as you say you're offended, it's okay to be that way.
Yeah, I know what you mean when you're working on these projects, and you know, you're right. Nobody gets into pets originally because they want to, you know, educate or conserve it. It does come from that like spark of interest, which we don't really maybe know where it comes from. But you're right. When you're working on projects like they are behind me and the gallery that you're in, like I'm sure you went through days where you just forget to eat, right? Where you're just like so in it and you're just working and you're just having, it's like you're just in the moment, right? And just for some reason that there's that deep passion.
Absolutely. It's no matter what is going on in my life personally, and as a YouTuber, you're no longer human, by the way. You're going to have to get used to that.
Yep.
Over the past 10 years, you could imagine things going on in my life, deaths and whatever the case might be. None of that matters because you cannot stop making the videos. Nobody really takes that into consideration, that you might have something else going on in your life and they're so quick to jump down you. What I'm getting at though is when I come out here, no matter what's going on in my life, none of it matters. Because when I start staring at an aquarium, all of that, it's almost like a meditation process, where this is like a tool to meditate and calm down. It's been shown that they're starting to use it with veterans and in old folks' homes and schools, all different types of scenarios where it's used for emotional support.
So, I totally get it. Like, I totally, that meditation process. I mean, for you, as when you were younger, and obviously you were going through that rough time, is it fair to say that when you got into the hobby, that was one of the first times that you felt like you had control or responsibility over something, and that kind of gave you more purpose?
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what it was. I mean, every time I would see a fish tank or an aquarium, and it was always the same one, it was this planted piranha tank of all types of tanks you could possibly be interested in. It was just a soothing and calm, and I was just mesmerized. I couldn't, as silly as it sounds, and I still kind of laugh at it, but I couldn't understand how animals were living underwater. Like, how are they doing this? Obviously extracting oxygen from the water with their gills, of course, now that we know, but having the fish was of course something to look forward to. It was a type of responsibility. It was something that, it was definitely a huge responsibility. And one of the first times in my life where I was responsible for something that I truly cared about, and nobody judged me or expected a certain thing out of me, type of deal. It's almost like saving up for a car where you have to budget, or you can't go out with your friends this weekend because, well, you're saving up for that car or whatever the case might be. Me, I was like, I'm trying to buy a new fish, or I just got a new fish and I want to make sure he's okay all night, so I'm going to stay home, that type of deal. So it was just a constant, responsibility. That's a good word to use. Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing how the smallest thing can do that, right? It doesn't seem like, keep taking care of a fish, but really what it is like planning for the future. And I'm guessing when you were going through that rough time, a lot of everything was, moment by moment. And, if you're getting into trouble, you're not thinking about the consequences because you're thinking about what is happening now. And the animals that you had, the fish that you had, allow you to, think a little bit further into the future, which obviously is what we want to be doing. We can't live moment by moment.
No, well, when you feel a sense of hopelessness, you are moment to moment to an extent where you don't think you're not headed anywhere. Tomorrow is the same day as today. The only thing that breaks up time is, doing negative things and ending up in court or in prison or in jail or wherever the case might be. And almost getting a break from the realities of, being surrounded by so many people just won't give you a chance, and maybe you didn't even want a chance. It's a difficult thing to explain. I always say that, like, and I don't know if you'll end up using this podcast or not, just because a lot of things I can say can be so raw, they can be so offensive. I don't filter myself. And I always speak in the moment of whatever emotion I'm feeling at the time, which is very dangerous for the internet because I say a lot of crazy things sometimes. Yeah. Like at the beginning of this contest, we almost veered off with me saying, "Stop being so offended." So it's all interesting to me. I think that the aquarium hobby, I think most animal hobbies. And even people that keep and train other animals like dogs or birds, I think that we all relate and have something in common to a certain extent. I think that 20% of the hobby is normal people that just enjoy like animals, but I think the other 80%, and I'm going to be, this is a really interesting finding of mine, that I find that in the aquarium hobby, it's a huge percentage of people with either troubled past or traumatic past of some sort, or they're police officers. I've met a tremendous amount of police officers. Whenever I go to New York, the NYPD shows up and they're giving me all kinds of gifts. They've given me all kinds of badges and hats, and they just thanking me for what I'm doing. And then I give that talk that I kind of did on video. And I was like, well, maybe wait to give you this stuff until but they love it. They don't care. They're like, you know what? We need more people like you to kind of take control. And we love what you're doing, et cetera. But it's just interesting to me to feel like I have so much more in common than I thought. And I think a lot of people feel like they're alone. Another interesting thing that truly sparked me wanting to be more involved with communities, clubs, even YouTube was, first and foremost, it was discovering the internet and that there was forums out there. That was probably like 14 years ago when I first started like realizing like, wow, there's like websites dedicated to fish and there's other people on there discussing it. I never owned a computer for a long time, but then I discovered my local club, which is a local aquarium club. And I realized nobody cared who I was, where I'm from. Nobody cared about my past, where I work, how much money I make. We just want to see your fish tanks. And that was like a big turning moment in my life where I thought, you know what? It doesn't matter what anybody thinks of me right now. I guess you can say that my life started to change the moment I stopped caring what other people thought about me. Because you can reinvent yourself at any moment as long as you surround yourself with new positive people. And for me, that was a massive turning point for me is discovering that there's so many more people out there like me and they don't care who I was, just who I am and who I might become.
Yeah, no, that's a really interesting point. And, you know, that's that sense of community where exactly right, where they're, you know, you're gonna have people who are all of a sudden wanting to help you. Like I'm sure like, you probably didn't have that very much before either, judging by the story that you told. And all of a sudden you have people that giving you pointers and telling you what you can do. And then all of a sudden you become the teacher, right?
Yeah.
So you grow into that. So that's, I guess, is that what charged you to start YouTube? Like I think I've heard you explain it before on your own podcast about how YouTube started, but.
Well, the original video that we're talking about, that's just part one. Part two is how I became the king of DIY, divulging what it was like over the past 10 years to get to where I'm at. The sacrifice and the stories people don't know. But how I started YouTube, I wish it was an inspiring story. I wish it was funny. I wish I had something to go along with it. But I was getting tired of being on forums and sharing pictures and whatnot. Or you do a big write-up, and back then forums would time out like after like 180 seconds. So you'd hit submit and everything's gone. So I was like, oh. So I just grabbed a cheap video camera that I had. Actually, I think it was like a point and shoot that had video capabilities, uploaded it to YouTube. And that was it. That wasn't my original channel though, because I would just create a new account every time I wanted to upload a video like that. I would just upload it, share it to, it was like one or two forums I was a member of, like a local club and then a forum. But eventually I thought, I want all my videos in one spot. I'm going to try to remember a username and password. So Joey was taken, all the variations of Joey that kind of sounded okay. I looked over at my Waru tank, one of these types of fish over here that you can't see. And I tried Waru Joey, it was available. I did Waru Joey as the password. So that's what I used for like the first 2 years as a username and password was Waru Joey. Yeah, that's how I started YouTube. Nobody watched for the first couple of years. I think after 2 years, I had 25 subscribers. Never made any money because there was no way to make money at that time. There was an exclusive YouTube partner program that you had to be invited to or apply to, and you can only apply every 3 months, to which I got denied for a straight year. I think it was late into my third year I got applied, and I thought I was going to be rich. I made 43 cents in my first year of monetization. But yeah, that's how I got into YouTube, was just because I wanted somewhere to upload my videos. A few of my videos became popular, and I realized in the comments section that the same people kept coming back. They were like interested in my content, and I had like almost 25 subscribers throughout my first couple of years. And they became like almost friends and a little community, and my focus started to shift there. Around the third year, though, is when I realized there's real potential in social media if we combine it with animal hobbies. Because at the moment, nobody was really doing it. And I thought, imagine instead of going local, being worldwide with sharing information. and showing people your fish tanks and aquariums and whatnot. Imagine where the hobby could be in 5 years from then, or even 10 years from then. And I believe social media has been an integral part of growing all of our hobbies, more so than it ever has before. So
yeah, no, I totally agree. And thinking about, I mean, it was about 10 years ago you're talking about when you had 25 subscribers, right? So, and YouTube was a totally different animal back then. It was a completely different world. I feel like, I don't even know if I went on YouTube very much, like a little bit, but not anywhere near. YouTube's like a daily thing for most people now. So
It is now. I think it was about a year ago or 8 months ago where YouTube surpassed television in terms of viewership for the first time in history. We are living through the biggest cultural shift that we've experienced since like radio type of deal. The ability to share and communicate. But yeah, YouTube was definitely different back then. Nobody was searching on YouTube. You would find YouTube through Google results sometimes, but Google didn't own YouTube then. YouTube was its own entity. So there wasn't like people subscribing and coming back for every video like you do these days. Then you would make videos that were ranking. So you would create a catalog of videos that people could search for and eventually find that video, but they wouldn't really subscribe to your channel. These days, it's all about keeping them coming back day after day. It's no longer about nearly as much as creating a how-to video, because people will not come back day after day for those anymore. They want more of the vlog style. And that's just really changed over the past 3 years. I've definitely had an impact on that with changing the way I film. And being successful with it certainly probably inspires a lot of other like aquarium channels to want to kind of go in that direction as well. But it does make me worry at the same time, whereas a lot of these videos we make now aren't searchable. If you want to learn about a topic that I'm talking about in the video, it's not really titled like that anymore, because those titles and thumbnails don't do well. You have to kind of glorify it a little bit, make it exciting, and otherwise it's not going to get watched. So imagine in 3 years from now what it's going to look like. I think I don't think it's going to look good.
Yeah, it's very interesting the way, because you're right. YouTube is kind of like the number 2 search engine on the internet. People use it to search all the time. But yeah, it has shifted over to that almost like kind of clickbaity type, things like that. So in the early years, what motivated you to keep producing videos? You just for the forums, or was it more for yourself?
The first like year or two was just sharing videos. Into the third year, some of my videos got more and more popular. And I decided I'd keep making videos on a continuous like weekly basis. I believe the third or fourth year, I hit like 1,000 subscribers, which was the most important milestone I've ever hit. Was the most exciting. 100 was okay, but nothing, and even 100,000, 500,000, 1 million, nothing felt the same as 1,000. As crazy as that sounds, it's just the truth of feeling like after years and years of making these videos, 1,000 people want to see more. I was so proud. I was so excited. But yeah, to make a push to continue making videos was certainly inspired by the community and people just enjoying what I'm doing. Like, I was just so excited that people cared about what I was doing. And it became a second hobby, making the video, filming the video, editing, learning about cameras and learning how to do websites. Everything that comes from me is organically from me. Nobody helps me with anything. Websites, design, logos, everything I do myself. And I just self-taught over the years. So that's a lot of time that will go into that. Wake up in the morning and work on it, then go to work like a normal job, 10 hours, come home, work on it. Weekends were time to catch up on making videos. So, and I did that for years. My channel, unfortunately, operated in the red for like the first, I would say 7.5 years, where it wasn't profitable. I was losing money every month because do it yourself, although cheap, you can save money at times. If you're just building something just to film it on video and you're not a business and you're not selling anything, it gets expensive fast. And I was doing it week after week. My channel eventually averaged out costing me about $2,000 a month to run. And at its peak, I was only making $1,600 a month. And we're talking Canadian dollars. So I was losing money every single month. obviously there was potential there, but it's difficult to get anybody to believe in you when you're leading the way. And that's probably one of the worst things that's happened to me. And one of the best is being the #1 aquarium channel for so long. And you tell your wife, like, things will get better. But you have nobody to show. Like, nowadays, channels can be like, look at him. You can hate me or love me, but you can see that an aquarium channel can get to 1 million subscribers. If I'm making this much, imagine what he's making. He must be making bank. So let's sacrifice today because we have something. I didn't have that. It was just me. And I was #1 aquarium channel. There was tons of other channels, but I surpassed them so quickly. And I was making, no money. But being the #1 aquarium channel, I felt a sense of pride, commitment, and of course, pressure to keep going. I felt like I'd be letting so many people down. I also always had this overwhelming sense like I owed so much more back to the hobby than what I'm doing. I always felt like I never did enough. I was never doing enough. Like, it literally saved my life. Where would I be without it? That's a terrifying thought for me at the time. I'm more mature now and I've grown. Men take forever to grow up, but we do. It's pathetic. Girls will grow up and they're ready to live a life by the time they're 18. I need till at least 30. then I'm ready to be a man.
Yeah.
But it was, it was always operating in the red, never making enough to, profit. So it was never monetary goals of mine to keep going until late 2016, when money was obviously going to become a part of what I was doing. It's now profiting. I'm now making real money. When I say that, I'm talking, I'm going to show this eventually in all my analytics, but I started making like 4,000 a month, 5,000 a month, 7,000, 8,000. By December 2016, I made $14,000 that month in ad revenue on YouTube. $14,000 is a tremendous amount of money. So I took the last 6 months at how much I was making, and I was getting targeted by preferred ads. That's what was happening. I was making 10 times what I should have been, or like 8 times what I should have been. Like I said, I was only making $1,600 bucks. But one thing I know about YouTube is I've never grown really fast. It's always been very slow. So for 3 years, my first 3 years of YouTube, I made nothing. The second 2 to 3 years, I made like $600 a month. The 2 or 3 years after that, it was like $1,500, $1,600 a month. It was always consistent. I could always bank on it. Like, I knew if I kept going, that's what I would make. Sometimes it was a little more, sometimes it was a little less. My channel never always cost the same amount of money to produce. So sometimes I would make money, but the next month maybe I lost money on it. But I wasn't getting rich by any means. It was very stressful. We had repossessions. Like, my cars got repossessed. It's funny now, but it's funny because I bought a new camera, and instead of making my car payment, which I called and they said it would be okay to miss a payment, but they didn't record it, car got repossessed. Been evicted from a couple of places. Anyways, back to the big money. This is what everybody loves to hear about, is success. Nobody really likes to hear about the climb and the sacrifice. So I'm making that big money. I decide I'm going to pay off all my debt. I buy my wife a $10,000 engagement ring because I got all this money and it ain't going nowhere. I'm rich now. I'm PewDiePie. And I say, you can have a wedding wherever you want. See, I never married her for like 15 years because I never thought I could buy her a ring that she would deserve or give her the wedding that she deserved. I guess that's more of a man thing where we want to, it's just an ego thing where a real woman that's in love with you doesn't care about the ring or what the wedding's going to be like. Deep down, I bet she does. I know I would if I was a girl. I would
give me that ring.
Yeah. So I said, do whatever you want, wherever you want. She wanted a destination wedding in Punta Cana. So I was able to pay all of it off all at once. We had a fantastic Christmas. Everything was amazing. I think we went away for that Christmas. January 1st every year is when advertisers' budgets for marketing renews. So every January, our views might go up, but you'll notice a dip in your money. It only lasts for a couple of weeks. So when this happened in January 2017, I wasn't worried, but it never came back up. I made $200 that month, got down from 14,000. I was like, wow. February hit, I think it was like $300 or $400, something like that. like, this is really bad, especially since I began the planning phases and paying for the new gallery. I look into things, and there's this YouTube advertiser boycott. All the premium ads were pulled, Coca-Cola, etc. And like I said, I started making that big money because I was getting targeted by these premium ads. We all know about premium ads. Sometimes you're placed in them. I'm the #1 aquarium channel. For aquariums, I'm being targeted. For reptiles, it could have been Brian or whoever else is a big reptile, or gaming, and then there's all categories. They want to target usually the top 5. Or whoever's getting the most views consistently. That didn't affect everybody, but it hit me hard. But I had tons of money left over, and I was saving, and I think it was about $40,000 to $60,000 into the gallery, and I think I had like $3 or $4 left in my account. I was like, so my wife left me years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. Like I said earlier, to produce this channel at one point, and I do everything myself. I would wake up in the mornings and work. I go to my real job and make not a lot of money. It was less than $40,000 a year, even though it was the most money I've ever made in my life. And I come home and work on my channel. Weekends were for my channel. I did that for 6 years straight. Over time, you grow apart from your loved ones. You're not spending as much time. Even though I'm there all the time, I'm not really there. And being such a young couple, things just weren't working out anymore. And she left for a few months. She left for 3 months. Clearly she came back, so that kind of ruins the anticipation here. But it was she came back under the grounds that I would prioritize my time. So I was like, look, I can't just quit YouTube now. I feel like I've given so much, and there's still so much more potential. And there's like it was really hard for me to say, like, this person I've never met, I'm having an impact on their life, or they really like my videos, and it's really having an impact on them, or look what it's did for me. I'm doing this for other people. And she's like, yeah, but the rent's due. So I quit my job, and I told her to come back. Things will change. I finally decided I'm going to try to monetize my channel a little bit more, because I never sold any merch or anything. I was never really into that. Although I leave so much money on the table, and I regret it now because we live on YouTube. It's okay if you make money now, but then it was you're not allowed to make a penny from this, but make these free videos. It was really tough. So I sat down, I wrote a book within 3 weeks, self-wrote it, published, distributed within 3 weeks.
It took you 3 weeks to write that book?
Yeah, when I want something, and when I put my mind to something, you said it earlier, we'll skip meals. I didn't move from my kitchen table for 3 weeks.
Wow.
Imagine what you could truly do in 3 weeks' time if you just honestly dedicate yourself to it. We are sidetracked by so many stupid things. Watching TV, we spend way too much time on YouTube. We don't spend enough time doing things that actually matter and that are actually productive. But if you truly cut out all the fat, you can accomplish a lot. So I wrote it within 3 weeks. That book went on to become the #3 top-selling book of all time with my publisher, period. Not just in fish tanks, all time.
Wow.
That was about 4 years ago. Anyway, she ended up coming back, and that was the time moving forward. I went full-time with YouTube, and things got a little bit better. Late 2016, started making that big money. It was like, wow, I made it, only to have everything taken from me in January. But when I was making that big money, I thought, I'm going to make this forever. If I got to where I'm at, and if I've reached this many people and changed this many lives from my basement, imagine if I had a dedicated building. Like, imagine behind you, you've gotten to where you are with what you have behind you, and maybe some other things. But imagine if you had a dedicated building. Mm-hmm. Insane to think about. And I've always reinvested any money I make from YouTube back into my channel and into the hobby. So here I am. Do you know this story? Is this new for you?
This is new for me, yeah.
Okay. So here I am with no money left. The gallery is built. This 2,000-gallon tank that I'm standing in front of, this is the top of it. The cement is poured by then. And by poured, I mean I dumped it in with buckets. Well, I didn't. I hired laborers to do that. You got to be smart doing that. 750 gallons of cement by bucket. I wasn't doing that. And I'm out of money. I was about to shut my channel down. I was like, if this continues, the gallery's costing me thousands. I still have thousands left to go through. I still have, and then ongoing costs. Every month this costs about an average of $1,300 to run, which is more than my regular bills. And now I'm broke. I promised my wife that if she came back, I would never do something like that ever again. We started the gallery thinking it's a good move because it's successful, but we weren't anticipating, nobody was anticipating that monetization thing to happen. And that went on for like 6 or 7 months where I made nothing. Anyway,
was she 100% on board with the gallery? Like that was, or that was a convincing?
She was never, so she's not into fish at all. She's only been out here a handful of times, and it's been here for about 18 months now. But she's never really on board with any of it. She's just more understanding and allowing, like knowing how important it is to you, like empathetic. It's supportive to an extent because I could be very convincing in terms of like, imagine this or imagine that, and being very visual with her, and imagine what will come. Imagine the money type of deal, because if you can't convince somebody to allow you to do something with warm, fuzzy feelings that we get for doing it. You have to give them that end goal, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow type of deal. See what I'm making now? Imagine if we blow up and whatever the case might be. And that's not why she wanted to do it, but it was like little things like that. Anyways, it was late April, I believe, or May. End of April. I think it was end of April, maybe May. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. It was in 2017. It's a year and a half ago, where I'm facing shutting my channel down. And I never actually told anybody this story, so I think you'll be the first. I've never even told it myself out loud. But so everybody knew that I was struggling financially, especially with the monetization drop. But nobody knew the story about my wife leaving, and the fact that if I kept doing this, she'd leave again. So it was either let her leave and go bankrupt and lose everything, or shut the channel down. A lot of people say, well, you could just do it slowly over time. No, that's not within my personality. I'm everything or nothing. I can't just be a little bit. I got to walk away. I was crushed. I didn't know what to do, but I was facing what I felt like shutting my channel down, stop making videos, and just disappearing, going back and finding a new job was the only outcome. Throughout the entire time of putting the gallery up, everybody knew why I was doing it. I've always been pretty authentic with who I am and the reasons why I do what I do, even though I can come across a little abrasive and I can even be arrogant at times and cocky, whatever the case. I've read comments. I know what some people think of me, and I can see that. But I have what I describe as a resting bitch face. I know I have it. And I know I look mad all the time. I try not to. I just have one of those faces that people want to punch. No.
Yeah.
So I'm facing all of these problems. People are entire time saying, let us help you. And they're getting mad at me. Like, I don't know why you're not letting us help you, like financially. I was like, no, it was a pride thing. But they were getting mad. Like, this is so selfish of you not to let us help. I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, I haven't asked for help for 8 years in doing this. I'm not going to start now. Until like one day it was like, this is do or die. If I don't get help, we shut the channel down. So I decided to upload this video. The video was like 25 minutes long, just a general update. And at the end of that video, I filmed, I just ended it normally, but I also had created another little clip where I asked for the help because I didn't know if I was going to put it in there. I honestly thought that could have been one of my last videos. I decided during editing, it was almost like rolling the dice right quick and throwing them out there. I dropped the clip in and rendered it, and I was like, oh, whatever. Then I uploaded it to YouTube and shut my laptop, and I didn't think anything of it. I was terrified. I thought I was going to be embarrassed that nobody would help. I thought like all of these people said they were going to help me. Are they going to watch this video and see that I need that help now? I thought that I would be mocked and humiliated, and I thought I'd be made fun of. I thought it was like, what ended up happening was I asked for $90,000 Canadian. There's a bit more to this in a second that I'll tell you. Anyways, within 47 hours, $90,000 was raised. Never in the history of the hobby has anything been that amount been raised for anything, let alone within 47 hours. I shut it down because I didn't need any more. I needed that 90,000. The gallery ended up costing me more than that. But the 90,000, I only needed 85 to do everything. And I did have some sponsors and whatnot for lights and all that sort of thing, but everything just added up really quick. And being in Canada, you have to build, if you want like a building like this, you basically have to build a whole new house.
Yeah, exactly.
Proper foundation, 8-inch thick walls, proper insulation. It has to be inspected. We have a lot of laws, especially in Nova Scotia, and bylaws, et cetera. Things have to be done a certain way. It just added up really, really fast. Anyways, $90,000. I think about $6,000 of that went to GoFundMe fees. Another $1,200 went to PayPal fees because not everybody could use GoFundMe. And I thought I was going to have the rest. No. I'm in Canada where healthcare is free.
Yes, free.
I had to pay taxes on it. I paid $25,200 in taxes out of the remainder. I ended up with what is equivalent to $44,000 American, which isn't even half of what this place ended up costing me, which is unfortunate. Nobody really knows that. That's something I'm going to be coming out with eventually as part 2 to becoming the king of DIY with that video originally. That's part 1. Part 2 is this type of story where we're summarizing here. But yeah, I started thinking to myself, like, would I have done this again? Like, knowing that I was going to not have that much money, would people be upset with me that the money went to like taxes, et cetera, et cetera? I think the short answer is no. I think that if they knew that they saved my channel as opposed to helping pay for the gallery, I think that they would feel even more proud of what they've done. But I've never told that story because I never thought I'd tell any of these stories, to be honest. But yeah, so.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't worry about that. I mean, there's a reason why you raised $90,000 in 47 hours, right? It's not people.
I didn't even have 200,000 subscribers then.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I've only grown to 1 million. I think it was like 700,000 or 500 or 600,000 in the past 12 months. Things have rebounded financially for me, thankfully, but that definitely helped. Overall, to date, the gallery has cost $110,000, something along those lines. So effectively, they covered half of the costs, but more importantly, saved this channel from like not existing anymore because I wasn't going to put any more into it at all. Period. 8.5 years of sacrifice. I felt like, okay, I've given enough. I've done enough. This is it. This is the last straw for me. And luckily, I was able to keep going. Moving forward from that moment, I thought I'm no longer going to do anything that doesn't make me happy. I'm going to be more of myself. I'm not going to bottle up my excitement anymore. When I wake up in the mornings, I cannot believe I get to wake up and do this. I'm so excited. So I mean, like my attitude and everything has changed throughout my videos in terms of like, sometimes I'm giddy and laughing and I just can't help it. I just decided I'm just going to be whatever I am that day. If I'm upset, then I'll make some moody videos. If I'm happy, I'm gonna make some happy videos. I'm just gonna film whatever makes me happy. And every video that I do, unfortunately, is not very well produced professionally, but it's what I'm most passionate and excited about right now. I film and edit and upload the same day in most cases.
And it seems like people really like that, right? It's like they kind of can come along with you. It's more, rather than just kind of setting up a tripod and talking in front of it, it feels like we're with you in the gallery when you're carrying the camera around and kind of doing that vlog style updates. Oh,
you know what I'm talking about. When you're making a video and you see the viewfinder, maybe if yours flips around, you look at yourself and you're talking to a camera. It's easy to do that to an extent, but it's very cold at the same time. So a little hack that I've learned was, and you'll be able to do this eventually, when meeting fans, what they don't know is you remember some people and you remember specifically what they look like at times. So every time I make a new video, I picture that's who I'm talking to, or that's who I'm making the video for, or that's who I'm on FaceTime with type of deal. And it makes things so much more easier and personable for me. It truly is like bringing them through here with me for that specific topic or whatever we're talking about.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously we can see that. That's really cool. That's a really interesting tactic. It is amazing how much you sacrificed to those 8.5 years. And it's almost more amazing is the faith that you had in that it was going to pay off. Or was it more just like hang on and hope? Or did you really truly think deep down that this was going to work? Because you're like you said, you are the first person to do this. You're sort of a trailblazer when it comes to this sort of thing. There are other people that do similar things outside of the aquarium hobby, but in the aquarium hobby, this is like you are it.
Yeah. Well, I've always, like I said, I had this overwhelming sense of like I owed something back, but also for the first time in my life, I was proud of what I was doing, and it was never about the money for me. Of course, nowadays, I want to make as much as I can. I never want to put my family or put myself in that position ever again. So of course I want to make that kind of money. I think that if you go into this with a good heart and you are financially rewarded, that's okay. I think that a lot of times people go in with financials in mind, and with a good heart second. Mm-hmm. Sometimes those people are successful, but not nearly. They don't last as long.
It's not long term.
No. I've been able to last 10 plus years because I love what I'm doing, for one. I feel like I'm having an impact, but most importantly, I just feel like I'm giving back to something that gave so much to me. Yeah. And
I mean, I do, like I had said in that letter that I wrote you, I do really think that viewers pick up on that sort of on an underwritten way. Like you're not explicitly saying it, but you have 1 million subscribers. And like I said, I don't have fish. I used to have fish, but I don't have fish. I watch your damn videos all the time.
I hear that sometimes. And it has changed the way I talk on video to a certain extent, where I know people that don't keep fish are watching my videos. Here's the fun part is like, people sometimes ask like, what's the point of the gallery? Why did you do this in the first place? And we could argue it all day. Like, I don't need this, first and foremost. If I wasn't doing YouTube, I do not want this building. It's too expensive. It's too time consuming. I don't want it. I don't want it. But we ended up on the #1 trending video on YouTube, and we stayed there for 2 days. We repeated that about between 20 and 30 times, getting onto the trending page, finding people like yourself or people that don't have fish, and inspiring them and getting them interested in fish, and simply growing it even more, inspiring other YouTubers to kind of take YouTube a little bit more serious. And at times, I sometimes get upset that like, oh, copycats and this and that. But if I could just put my ego aside and think, they're contributing just as much as me. They are inspiring others. They're getting other people into the hobby. They are they're contributing in their own ways. And ultimately, without the gallery, I would never have been able to reach the amount of people that I have, without it. So
yeah, it's an interesting thing for sure. And I mean, I know you say people sometimes give you a hard time. You have in the comments, people giving you negative comments, and I don't think they really understand how much work it is to do what you're doing. Like even, you miss a video and then, of course you got to hear from all these commenters. And
well, it's interesting as a YouTuber, and I'll give you a perspective that has helped me forever. 100 people could tell you how great you are in your comments, but it's that one person that doesn't like you that's going to ruin your day. One person that doesn't like the way you look or the way you talk or your information, or they just think you're this or that, the other thing. I have plenty of those. We always give the oil to the squeakiest wheel. And the squeakiest wheel is always the negative people, isn't it? We never commend or talk about the positivity nearly enough. So for me, I've decided that I'm just going to focus on that positive people, keep making videos for them in the way that I like. Because if I listen to the people that don't like what I do, I wouldn't be doing the format that I'm doing right now. And it's working more so than ever before. I mean, in the past 2 years, my first, 7 years on YouTube, I can now replicate that entire success in 1 month in terms of how many subscribers I get and how many views I got in those first 7 years versus today, and the style that I'm using now. And the only difference is that I now enjoy what I'm doing. do it yourself is very monotonous and boring and very robotic, step by step. It was fun at first, but once you do it so many times and you instruct the exact same way for so long, it's just very boring. Plus, nobody's watching them anymore. So it's really difficult to find the motivation to do something that some people want you to do when most people are not really interested in it. I think most importantly is just to continue to always do what you're truly happy to do. And it's okay to change and evolve over time. Dylan, you're going to change the way you talk in 2 years. You're going to look different. You're going to sound different. You're going to do things differently. Maybe you won't be doing this in 2 years. Maybe you'll eventually give up on it, but it's okay to evolve and change. But just keep remembering that, is this making me happy? Life's so short. It is so short, and you should be happy at all times. I've discovered that personally for myself. I always thought money would make me happy because I've been broke my whole life. My whole life was revolved around money problems. Now, over the past year, when things have rebounded, I'm doing very well. I've realized that it's not truly money that makes me happy. Money will remove certain stresses and give you more time to do things that you love. But it's not necessarily what's going to make you truly happy. It will bring you more stress than being broke. Because eventually you don't know who's who you're surrounded by. Where were they before type of deal. Yeah, balance is so important. And that's something that I've been working on myself and trying even a little harder of trying to find what's making me happy over the past few months. I know that like a lot of people, I missed some videos here and there and I took 2 weeks off. I can assure you that I wouldn't miss any time if it wasn't entirely important. And really, it was just to reset a little bit. Didn't need a break from YouTube or the hobby, nothing like that. I still had to change water. I just needed to reevaluate a few things.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. And you do see those comments, and probably every one of your videos, there's always someone that says, you need to go back to DIY. It's like, how many, you've done everything. I mean, there's an encyclopedia on your channel of making, like that's how I originally found you, is because I was looking to build stuff for my reptiles and I came across, the plywood aquarium and things like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, you don't need to do that again. And those videos are very time consuming to edit.
Yeah, well, they take 20 to 40 hours for me to make. And that's if I make one video a week. It's okay. I still do tons of do-it-yourself. They're just not titled how-to anymore because those titles don't do well. I still do plenty of it, but only when I need to. I'm no longer looking to create a catalog of videos because the requests that people have, I've already done it. Now, some want me to redo a lot of videos the way I make videos today, and maybe I'm just not interested in it. Again, I've discovered that money's not what I want in life. It's really great to have, but I'd rather make no money and be happy than be miserable and make lots of money doing something I don't want to do. But that's 10 years on YouTube, 10 plus years. It's crazy to think that there's people out there that have been on the platform for that many years as well that have millions and millions and millions of subscribers. I can only imagine how the lives that they live in terms of like having to deal with everything that comes outside of when the camera shuts off. You'd have to be a pretty strong person. I think YouTube is the job everybody wants till you get it, till you become like successful at it. Then it's nobody can prepare you for what's going to happen.
Well, that's one of the reasons I started this podcast, because I found videos to be very exhausting to make and all that. And I still wanted to talk about this stuff. So I thought this would be a more like a medium that fit my life a lot better than filming all these different things. But it's definitely a crazy path that it has taken you on up until this point.
Yep. It's a good story to share. If not interesting for the average person, it is inspiring for those going through the same things. And to know that you just kind of surround yourself with positive people, stop caring what other people think about you. You can change your life if you just chase a goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Take something small that you can be responsible for and then go after that. And if it's taking care of a single fish to start with, that can change your life in a way that you would never have predicted.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I don't think I'll take up too much more of your time. Since I have you here, I got to ask about the Reptarium because you've been. And can you talk a little bit about that experience with Brian's Razoo?
Yeah, I should probably talk about Brian as a person first.
Yeah, and I did want to ask you about that because he does get a lot of hate online as well.
It's so silly, and so do I. So let me explain to you what Brian is like in person. There's no way for me to say this without sounding mean and cruel because we talk almost all the time. Brian loves animals so much that it annoys me. Like I stayed at his house one time for a couple of nights, and from morning till evening, it was all about cameras are off, nobody around. And it's just like how much he loves them, almost bringing himself to tears of how much he loves animals. And I'm like, Brian, stop. I know, me too. Maybe not like that. But yeah, so his heart comes from a tremendously great place. He's very business savvy and smart as well. And he works extremely hard. And when you put all of that together, it's bound for success. But it's also bound to be a polarizing person where people can love as well as hate you, just like myself. So Brian as a person is one of my favorite people. He's always been supportive of me. When I hit 100,000, he was the first one to congratulate me. 500,000, he's always the first. And I've got some really close friends in the hobby that I speak with on a daily basis, but he is always the first to text me, call me, whatever the case might be, always asking me to come down and just, we don't have to film, just come hang out, blah, blah, blah. Really great person, loves animals. I know that he gets a lot of flack for like how he keeps the cages. And I never understood that as well. And I've got a saying for my own channel is like, people hate what they don't understand. Mm-hmm. Those are sales tanks. Those snakes are in and out of there really fast. I mean, he's got thousands. I'm not a snake person, so I don't know the ins and outs, but I can assure you that bringing harm to animals is the last thing he wants to do. With that said, imagine being an exporter or somebody that distributes snakes on that scale and putting everything on camera. Nobody really does that. Mm-hmm. So we're seeing the worst from him. That isn't that bad, but imagine what others are doing that don't have cameras in their buildings. And his zoo has kind of, I think, changed his philosophy a little bit because he has, this incredible enclosures that he's building. I think that it's just like myself. I kept bare bottom aquariums and stuff for so long that I started decorating. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I do like this. And it is pretty cool. And the fish do look pretty awesome. And it's this and it's that. Is it better for them? Well, it can be argued and debated all day long what's best for what. I can say that the moment I started decorating my tanks, I've had problems with, big fish getting hurt and whatnot. Right. And before, never an issue when I was keeping like bare tanks, although very sterile looking and not much of an environment to interact with. Snakes are a much more intelligent animal than a fish, obviously, but and I'm definitely speaking out of turn by even talking about snakes in any way because I just don't know much other than they will bite. Creep you out. Yeah. So I think that the Reptarium is a way for him to further educate and inspire people with something that looks awesome. He was doing it from his facility, but can only get so far with that because the average person doesn't understand that side of a breeder or a distributor or a wholesaler, like somebody that's bringing in a ton of snakes. Are we going to put them in a vivarium of some sort? No. You put them in with probably a little bit of paper towel, some water, the right warmth and humidity, and 3 days later it's sold. Otherwise, we can't clean all that bedding. It's just impractical, even though it's pretty and it's probably more beneficial for the snake long term. They're just not there long term. Yeah. When I was there, I was watching snakes being shipped out like massive amounts, like every single day. I was like, wow, I had no clue your facility was this big. He's got 2 levels, like all those white alleys. I don't know how many there is, but there's like thousands, and he downsized. Absolutely insane. With that said, I don't watch his videos closely enough because I find as a YouTuber, watching other channels that are very close to your niche is too influential. It can change the way you film, the way you make your videos, the way you talk, etc., and you lose your individuality, especially on a website with the first word in its name being you. But the Reptarium, I love the idea. I think it's a massive expense for him, and I hope that it pays off in the long term. I will see what happens. But I can say that like his heart is about as close to gold as it could get when it comes to the love of animals. When you display absolutely every aspect of your hobby and your life on camera, though, you do open yourself up to people taking things out of context and looking at things that might look damaging to an extent. And it happens with me all the time. It's easy for me to say that it probably happens to him more, but I don't know. I don't know. I think that we focus too much on the negativity versus where would the hobby be without Brian?
Yeah.
That's
yeah, exactly.
That is potential. I know that a lot of people would be like, oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Well, would a lot of channels exist if it weren't for him that inspired them? Or how many people got into the snake hobby or reptile hobby because of him? How many fish store or snake store practices have changed and evolved over him? How much of an industry impact has he had in terms of sales because of all these new people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? And I could say the same thing about myself. But those are conversations nobody wants to have because it's the negativity gets way more attention, way more controversy, and starts a much bigger conversation because you have a line in the sand and you can choose which one to stand on. But personally for him, I think he's doing a good thing. I think he's a great person. I think he likes animals a little too much for my likings. I like them, but he loves them. Not in a weird way. He's just like, I always say, like, when the camera shuts off for me, I don't know who I'll be. Maybe I'll still be I joke around and I laugh and I am very hyper in person as well. But he is identical on and off camera all day long. That's exactly what he sounds like. That's exactly how he talks and moves and his mannerisms. Everything is identical. Even in the mornings, I've waked up in the morning and he's in the kitchen, like type of thing. And like, that's how much time we spent together. I know him not as close as I'd like to be, but I definitely know him quite well. And I think that that's the unfortunate side to YouTube is it's so easy to judge people without like really, but how is he supposed to, give everybody a chance and meet everybody, et cetera, et cetera. But
that's why I kind of wanted to ask you about it because you know him personally, and it is important because he does some like last week I had talked about him on the show as well and said I was really excited about the amount of people that he's inspiring with the Reptarium and all that, and the fact that people like criticizing his ideas are fine, but people don't do that. They attack the character and they attack ad hominem attacks and they call names and it's just totally useless. So that's why I wanted to have
Brian, at the end of the day, he's got a beautiful home, a beautiful wife, a beautiful son. He's got a great life and a great business. And I do know that he goes through way more stresses than it's financially worth. I think that at any moment when he's no longer happy doing this, he could shut it down and he'll be still fine financially and whatnot. He's a very smart person and he's doing a lot. But I think that I also think, what was I going to say here? That great. Forgot exactly what I was going to say, but
we were talking character attacks or being negative.
So it's really easy to criticize somebody. This is the world we live in right now, and this is at the beginning of this conversation where I said people get so offended. What I was really probably thinking about in the back of my head is that people hide behind the word criticism and opinion as a way to attack somebody. Mm-hmm. It's okay to have an opinion over something. It's okay to be to have criticism.
Yep.
What is it really constructive? Is it positive or negative is fine, but what is it truly contributing to? Is the name calling really needed? The threats really needed? Is the mocking and the constant bashing, is all of that really needed? Or are you going to do that and end it with, but that's just my opinion? At what point does it become harassment and bullying? I've dealt with this myself.
Definitely, yeah.
And I've met some of these people in person. And I can assure you, they do not talk like that in person, only on the internet. Now, I'm not trying to act like, oh, I'm going to fight the world. I'm just saying that try to conduct yourself in a way on the internet and online as you would in person, because at some point in time, your employer is going to look at your internet history, or somebody might report you to something, and you could get in a tremendous amount of trouble and problems. I've told Brian myself that every time you see negativity, delete and block them, get them out of there. They're only going to get worse. But he's like, no, I'll reply. And I think that, it's good to, I was like, no, because that's what they want. They want validation. Get rid of them. Maybe that's just me and my experience of like, if you want to name call, do racial things or all kinds. I could call the stupid Canadian constantly. I'm not even that. I'm not even that like proud of my country. I mean, like if I was from Canada, I'm proud to be Canadian. If I'm from the States, I'm proud to be American. It doesn't matter to me because we live across an invisible line anyways. Mm-hmm. But so when people talk about that type of stuff, there's no place for it. It's fish tanks.
Yeah. It's a glass container with water in it.
Yeah.
Let's not get too crazy.
But yeah, I think in the reptile hobby, I think that it's good to keep Ryan in the conversation. I think that he does have a tremendous amount of supporters. I mean, with like 1.6 million, he's probably got 2-3 million followers across social media. And for him, if he didn't do snakes all the time, he would grow way faster. If he just did general vlogs, like you see him collaborating with every massive YouTuber, but he's always incorporating reptiles to a certain extent when he really doesn't have to. He's doing it to further the reptile hobby, where if he didn't do that, he'd probably grow tremendously faster and get way more views, et cetera, et cetera. But I believe he continues to do it just because that's where his heart's at. I do remember when he started the vlog too. I thought that it was a horrible idea. I was like, I can't imagine how much work that's going to be.
Oh God, it must be so much work.
Yeah, he's like, no, it's just part of my day now. I know what I'm going to do. I know we're going to film and et cetera, et cetera. And his world is, and same with mine, his world is his family and reptiles. And I don't know if he has much room for much else because he's very passionate about what he does. And he's very passionate about his wife and his son, and making sure they're successful and taken care of, and spends time with them. And they go on, like, he has a great life. Every time I visit him, I come home and I'm like, I need to step up my game for not only my channel, but as a person. I could be better than this. I just seen it. So if you ever meet Brian in person, you will go away, walking away thinking, I could be a better person.
Yeah.
No, I can.
Well, that's not a bad thing to think.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think maybe we'll wrap it up there because we're already 10 minutes over what I said we'd go. But really interesting story. Okay. I think that was awesome. I really appreciate you telling that story, and maybe we'll connect again in the future and we can do another one in the update. Do you have future plans for the gallery right now, or are you just going to keep plugging away at different things, or do you have a kind of a master plan?
I've never had a plan for any of this. I wish I could be exciting for you and give you some inside tips or anything. I wing everything. So I don't know.
Water changes and feed fish.
Yeah, I don't know what my next video is going to be, let alone, what I'm doing next week type of thing for this. I do whatever's I'm most excited about, most passionate about, trying to tell the story and hope that other people are interested as well.
Cool. Well, if people want to find your book or buy shirts or find you on YouTube, can you let us know where that, or Instagram as well? Yeah,
it's just all the King of DIY, or Waru Joey, UARUJOEY. But if you look for the King of DIY, you'll find me over here.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you very much, Joey.
My pleasure, Dylan. Thank you for having me, my man.
Thank you very much for listening to that episode. I do really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that you got something from it. We talked about what I perceive as one of the most important reasons somebody can keep an animal or keep a pet. And that reason is the purpose and responsibility that it can give you. So Joey's story is a perfect example of that. This is an individual who is in a very dark spot, and taking care of a fish saved his life because it gave him purpose and responsibility, and all of a sudden he was planning for the future, and he was able to make the right decisions on a daily basis that would allow him to continue the hobby rather than continue, the bad behavior that he was engaging in before. And obviously you have to start small. I'm not talking about running out and buying a bunch of animals to give you the life purpose. What it is it's, starting with something small that you're able to control and have responsibility for. Joey didn't get to go from basically a criminal to a YouTube star with 1 million subscribers in a year. That's a 15-year process, and it started with taking care of a fish tank. That's the first step, and then that gave him the responsibility and the power to continue helping himself. And now we have a member of the community, even just his local community, but also the YouTube community, who is very, very positive and influential. which is, you know, obviously 180 degrees difference than he would have been had he not gone down that path. And it is also so important for us as YouTube viewers to remember that the people behind the camera are people too. And we only see Joey in the aquarium gallery, so we kind of have this vision of him, or this image of him, that is just this fish guy. But he does have a personal life behind the camera, and so do all YouTubers. And they do an incredible job and grind very hard to provide us with free entertainment. And we have to remember that they have stuff going on too. And I think because when someone gets very popular on YouTube, as a viewer, we just assume like these guys are millionaires. There's just no other way. There just must be millionaires rolling in cash. And it's just not the case. Joey now is successful and he's doing well financially and he has a great family. But there's times where it was very, very tough for him, and he put the hobby in front of that. It wasn't about financial gains. It was about helping people in the hobby. And I think we sometimes forget that. It's like he grinded for, 8 years with very, very little viewership and no money, negative money. And now that he's doing well, we're just like prodding him, keep making videos, keep making videos. It's like we have to be very grateful for all the work and grinding that he did before that allowed to have that giant catalog of DIY material and taking us along for the ride for the aquarium gallery. So that was a very interesting story. I'm very grateful for him sharing it with us, and I do hope you enjoyed that show. If you want to support the podcast, please go to animalsathome.ca/podcast. There are a few different ways you can support. One, share the content, share the podcast with your friends, comment and like on the videos. That helps me tremendously. You can buy an Animals at Home shirt or sweater. They're available online on my website at animalsathome.ca/shop. $5 for every shirt does get donated to the Amazon Rainforest Conservancy, or you can just hit the link that says buy me a coffee, and that's just a $2 or $3 donation, whatever you want, and that just comes right to me, and that allows me to pay for the expenses that I incurred during recording the podcast. Again, thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.